looks like we're live. People are joining in. We have a Snap expert here with us today. Salaam is joining us. Salaam, thanks for being on, man. I think you put out a tweet, or it was on Substack, I think, on notes section. You said you're a Snap expert, and if you got questions, come on in and give you questions. I'm like, you know what? I don't just want to ask this guy a question. I want to talk to him face to face as much as we can on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to invite you on. So tell us about your expertise in Snap, because it appears that we are not going to have SNAP benefits as of Saturday. And, approaching Halloween here, it's kind of weird that we're going to do this whole national ritual where we pass out free candy. But then the next day, we're going to be like, hell, you're hungry? Go eat candy, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird position that we're in the timing. But tell us about what you know about SNAP and why you know about SNAP. And then we'll have a conversation, because we had a little private conversation, but I want to talk about the disconnect that America's kind of having with SNAP. And I want someone who's very familiar with the numbers, because I don't think the numbers are what people are paying attention to or what they should pay attention to. But give us your expertise and let's go from there.
Yeah, let's set the background here. So, hey, everybody. My name is Salaam Bhatti. I'm a public interest lawyer. So I used to work at the Virginia Poverty Law Center, and I was the public benefits attorney. So I focused on things like SNAP, TANF, school meals, and got a little into WIC as well. And then I went to the Food Research and Action Center, which is a national nonprofit, and I worked as the SNAP director there. So I got to work on one farm bill, which never came to fruition, and farm bill is where SNAP lives.
Right.
And then I got to fight against the big, beautiful bill as it snaked its way through Congress. And then when I was in Virginia, I became the only advocate in the country who convinced Republicans to unanimously vote to expand SNAP for over 25,000 families.
Now, you're actually running for Congress, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but I want to go back to something that you said about the Farm Bill, because I think that's the big disconnect here. SNAP is administered by the USDA, which is the Department of Agriculture. Now, from my understanding, because I've never actually received SNAP, years and years ago, when my wife, we had our first kid, we had WIC, but that's the only kind of experience I personally have with any kind of assistance in that form. So I've never received SNAP, and I've never really talked to someone personally to talk to them about SNAP, because I think we kind of we sterilize it with the SNAP. But tell the audience, it is the USDA that administers this program, but it is the states who decide who gets what, right? And there's this question of this emergency fund. So explain that a little bit so people know exactly what that is.
Over the next 3 to 5 hours, let me break this down.
Yep.
So what we have, so the United States Department of Agriculture administers the program, and then the states can actually have different options on who gets it. So there's like a default eligibility standard, and then states can customize it as they want. So what we were able to do in Virginia was we were able to increase that eligibility from 130% of the poverty line to 200% of the poverty line. And we were able to take out the resource test, which looked at how much you had in your savings. Some states may increase the resource test. They may go from 130 to 160 or 180 or something.
So what you're saying is state to state, it can be different.
State to state can be different, but the amount will stay the same. So that formula for how much you get in benefits, that's the same across the board.
So it's just the threshold that you walk across to get that amount is different from state to state, not the amount itself.
Exactly. And some states may use their own budget to put in a little bit more. For example, like the minimum benefit you can get is $23. I mean, you can't even get like a bag of groceries for $23
now.
So some states are like, you know what, everybody gets $50, or everybody gets $90, or if you're elderly, you get $90. So they'll try to figure out how they can make it work with their budget, knowing that every state has a very limited budget, and like every agency in their states are underfunded and understaffed as well.
So the minimum, if you qualify, if you get over that threshold, whatever the state decides, is 23. What's the maximum a person can actually receive?
Depends on the household. I don't have the numbers in front of me or in my memory, but like household of 3 could get quite a few $100, like maybe $700 or $800 maximum if they have no income. Now the thing is people will see that number, oh my God, they're getting $800, and I can barely get $600 from my own income. Here's the thing, like, if you have no income and you're getting $700 for SNAP benefits, that's only money for groceries.
Right.
You can't use that on bills or anything like that. That's only money for groceries, and you're probably a household of 3 or 4, so you've got kids to feed, and you're also probably you gotta also remember that a lot of people who receive SNAP are in rural areas or in food deserts in general, could be in an urban area. So when you're in that type of environment, your food costs are higher and your food quality is lower. So it's a lot of issues that SNAP unfortunately can't solve by itself.
So let's get into the weeds, and I actually mean the weeds, like in fields on farms where this food is grown, because
But
I
Tony,
think that's yeah.
I don't want to be the proverbial congressional candidate who doesn't answer your question. You did also ask
Yes,
about the emergency fund.
yes. Go ahead. Yep. Mhm.
So there is something known as a contingency fund. It has about last we checked like a few years ago when we had the numbers was about $5 billion was in this emergency fund. And the whole purpose of this emergency fund was for shutdowns. When the government shuts down, USDA is obviously not working, so they can't really put the money out for SNAP benefits, and because there's no budget, right? So the contingency fund was there to make up for this. And anytime there was a shutdown, that's what they dipped into to fund SNAP benefits. Now, SNAP is about $9 billion a month, so the $5 billion in the contingency fund is not enough to cover all of it, but it would be enough to cover some of it. So what Trump is doing, Trump is the first president in SNAP history who is not using the contingency fund to put out the benefits. So in what tomorrow, there's going to be people in every single state except Virginia, because Virginia is implementing an emergency nutrition program. But every other state, people are not going to have money to pay for food. Over 40 million Americans will not have money to pay for food.
And from my understanding, it's that of that, I think it's about 42 million is the estimate of people that actually receive this type of benefit, and I think over 20 million of them are children. So
Yep.
let's. I want to keep that in mind. So I want to go back to this disconnect that I find online. And you mentioned that the majority of SNAP benefits, maybe not the majority, and I don't know if you mean percentage wise or dollar wise, actually goes to country folk, rural people. I'm from the country, right? So there's a disconnect here because you also mentioned food deserts, and a lot of these places where they grow the food, and they have the cattle, they have the pork, they have the poultry barns, they have row crop. A lot of those places are food deserts where they're even growing the food because farm to table is different now than when the farm bill started, and I think it's part of our problem when we sterilize things because we call this SNAP, and I think by sterilizing it with an acronym like that instead of calling it the food bill, um, because that's really what it is. It's food. I know that people, nutrition assistants, and they want to use all these fancy terms, but I think we box ourselves in when we start to really because we don't want people to feel shame because they're on this
Mhm.
because it's food stamps, but we really lose what it actually is when we do that. And I think that's how we get to these places where a group of people who may receive a ton of benefit from this program, even if they're not directly getting those dollars, their communities see a huge benefit for these programs. They're disconnected because SNAP is for someone somewhere else.
Right.
Food stamps is what my community gets. It's kind of like Obamacare and ACA type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like we get confused because we're not educated. We're not educated on this. So the disconnect that I see is because we talked the other day and I've been trying to find the number, and I believe you said it's about 23 cents on the dollar that actual American farmers that go that SNAP benefit. So 23 cents on every dollar that we spend goes into the American farmer's pocket. That's not including the truck drivers. That's not including the butchers. That's not including the warehousing. That's not including the HVAC companies that run the coolers at the grocery store. That's not the people who stock the groceries at the grocery store or the people who clean the grocery store. I mean, there's so many different components to our food source from farm to table. And I think we forget this. Like we forget that the farm is where it starts and the table is where it ends. And there's so many different pieces of the economy in between. And that's what the farm bill, or I want to call the food bill, really kind of structures in our economy. So why do we have this disconnect if 23 cents on the dollar is going towards those communities just in the production of the food alone? We're not talking about shipping and housing and retailing of it. We're just talking about the production and the harvesting of it.
Yeah, it's decades and decades of work of demonizing poor people. When people think of food stamps or SNAP, they think about a welfare queen, which is something from the Reagan era, when really Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are the biggest welfare queens, right? So, what we have to realize is that, and what we really have to change our way of understanding, and you said it exactly, like SNAP benefits are not just helping 42 million people put food on the table.
Right.
This is a fast injection into the economy. On average, everybody exhausts their SNAP benefits by the third week of the month. It's only on average about $6 per person per day. In fact, I was at my friend's actually not my friend's my son's friend's birthday party, and I'm talking with his father, and I said, "Hey, how much do you think the average SNAP benefit per person per day is?" He's like, "I don't know, $80." I was like, "No, it's $6." And dude, his eyes almost jumped out of his sockets. His jaw dropped on the ground. He's like, "Republicans are trying to cut that?" Like, yeah, it's not much. And so we do something called the Snap Challenge, where people for a month, if they think like, oh, it's like $180 a month is doable, try it. Try it yourself and see how you do. But this is a fast injection into the economy. So, like you said, the grocery store is able to keep its lights on. So many people are hired because of SNAP benefits. The truck driver is able to keep driving. The farmer is able to grow their crops. The food manufacturer, the payment processors, everybody in between. So this is really important to know that this is an economic generator. But when you take that same money and you give it as a tax cut to the wealthiest people in human history, you never see that money again.
Right. Well,
People with SNAP.
those communities don't see that money because that's the history of it. Like, I think a lot of times as liberals, we kind of take historical context as nuance, and it's not really the same. But the historical context of this is after the crash of '29, we decided as a country and the Dust Bowl, right? Which we had the Great Depression, we had the Dust Bowl. We decided that look, we can't have farmers out there not being able to grow crops because the people who can't afford food then won't have food and we'll really be screwed. Like we're going to be boned if we don't make sure we have food security. And it's food security is not just national security, it's also economic security, right? And and most of it is privately driven. Now, yes, the government is giving those dollars to those recipients or customers. And I think that's where we get this disconnect. Like these aren't moochers, they're customers at the grocery store. They're going to be customers at the grocery store anyways, right? And we want them to buy American products. We want them to buy the beef, the pork, the poultry, the grain. And yes, one of the worst parts of this whole thing is that we have let food companies kind of uneducate us and really make it to where it's easy to buy a jar of spaghetti sauce, right? Instead of buying the other ingredients to make the spaghetti sauce. They have uneducated us about how to make the bread, right? And what goes into that. And I think that's another disconnect that we have with food security and national security and economic security too, is we've done ourselves a disservice because we don't see value in educating on food, and when we've done that, we've demonized people who need to receive the food, and we've demonized people who grow the food. Because I see this FAFO, I see both. I see FAFOs on both end of this SNAP spectrum. Right, you got one set of people saying you're just moochers. You're just getting free food. You don't work for your food. You don't deserve it. And then I see people who are defending those people, those customers getting that food, telling the farmers, well, you don't deserve to grow your crop. You don't deserve to sell your soybeans to China. Even though those soybeans keep those farms going, they keep those farmers in business so they can grow food here at home because they got to profit from more than just the SNAP program. They got to profit from more than just the American consumer. And it's important to have those markets open so that their fields can stay fertile and their fields can grow crops for us too. The same way with the cattle market and how our president of the United States and our Secretary of Treasury sent $40 billion of our money to Argentina, the biggest competitor for soybean right now, because Trump decided to go into a trade war by taxing the American people. And then we have the problem of he wants to buy Argentinian beef and screw our cattle farmers by drawing down their money. Because I want to remind people that the cattle in the field, that's not just beef on your table. That's money that those farmers have. And it's an investment and a business that those farmers have built, not for themselves necessarily. Yes, they profit off of it, but it's for the food source. It's to push those cattle, those cow calf operations. Most of them are small mom and pop farms that drive the beef business from cattle to feedlot, from feedlot to slaughter, from slaughter to the grocery store to your table. And when we don't understand those components and we get those disconnects, we get the end of the spectrum where the left is demonizing the farmer and the right is demonizing the person, the customer at the grocery store. And guys, we're in this together.
Yeah.
Like we are on the side of the farmer, and the farmer is on the side of the people coming in the grocery store and buying their products with that SNAP benefit. And we need to start to understand that. And we need to start to defend each other as Americans, because if we don't defend each other as Americans in this situation that we're in, it doesn't matter our culture, because there is farm culture, right? I grew up in farm culture. I grew up on a cow. We had a cow calf operation when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I know how that process works. And I also know on the other end of the spectrum, when you go in the grocery store and you see hamburger for $12 a pound, $9 a pound, and you're pissed off about it. So like, but we're in this together. And the only people standing in our way sometimes is executive authority. Because you alluded to this earlier, that Trump is the first president who has decided with his executive authority to starve people in this country, or at least that's what it seems like he's doing. And that is executive authority that we need to walk away from. We need to stop relying on one person. I've been to several No Kings rallies, and I really want to reiterate that there is a realignment, I think, happening in this country. And I think people are sick and tired that our voices get squashed. I think that's probably why you're running for Congress. And we can talk about that too in this thrust, is I think people do not want strong executive authority anymore. They don't want executive orders. They don't want a president or a governor or a mayor telling them what the hell to do. We would rather elect our representation, and our representation listen to us. Because those executive offices, the president specifically, is our servant. But the Congress or the city council or the county commission or the state legislature, those are our representation for us. And it's not just us, the SNAP recipient, or us, the grocery store customer, but us, the farmer. We're all American. We're all in this food security together. And if we don't do something about this fast, the billionaires are going to buy up all the property. They're going to buy up all the farmland, and we ain't going to have control over any of the food. We, the people, won't have any control. So tell me about what your plan is, because I know you're running for Congress, and I told you before that I don't officially endorse anybody, but I am going to ask you questions about what your plan is to get those disconnects, um, to undo those disconnects and really connect them, I guess you would say, to make sure people understand, hey, we're in this together. Yeah, we may not agree on culture. We may not vote together, but we eat together and we grow food together and we shop together. This is where we're at.
Yeah, the back of a dollar bill says "E pluribus unum," which means out of many we are one. It is the diversity of the American people that's our strength. Unfortunately, what's happened is that the powers that be, the masters of mankind, as Adam Smith would call them, have taken that diversity and used it as a way to make us hate each other. And so, what I'm doing across the campaign trail and what's resonating with people, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats is, and it's not about left versus right. We're all in this together. It's really about the billionaires versus everybody else. So, we're shifting that spectrum, not left versus right, but top versus everybody else. And so, it doesn't matter which party is in the majority, the billionaires are always in power. Wealth inequality has increased to levels that have never been before seen in this country, and we're all suffering as a result. So it doesn't matter about left issues or right issues. It matters about, can you afford to put food on the table? Can you afford your energy bills? Is your healthcare cost going out of control too? Yeah, same here. So it's like these are the issues that are uniting us, and these are the issues that we can do something about from Congress. So we're going to go in, we're going to be fighting to tax these billionaires. We're going to be fighting for healthcare for all and improving our safety net. And that's my lane. I know how we can, I know how these programs work, but how they can work better. So I really want to be able to be proactive as AI is taking over a lot of jobs. Like right now, we just had 14,000 layoffs at Amazon. There's no private sector for all those folks. Amazon was the private sector. So what's gonna be their safety net? There is no safety net in this country. You know, there's a blanket with a lot of holes. That's not a safety net. So this is what we gotta do. We gotta really improve the welfare system. And what we're gonna be coming on next year in 2026 is a revolutionary time. And this is going to be an opportunity for folks to vote for people who have a revolutionary vision, not a patchwork vision. We can't control Z or command Z if you're an Apple user, what Trump and the Republicans have done. We've got to build something even better. And this is exactly what happened in England after World War II. The fascists of Germany had destroyed London, I mean, leveled it. And when the new party was elected, they're like, well, this is a revolutionary time to do revolutionary things, not patchwork things. And so thus was born the National Health Service. This is the opportunity we have to get healthcare for all on the table and move that ball forward. So that's, really what I want to do for the American people. And I want to save America along the way as well by making sure Congress members aren't voting for their self-interest. And so we're going to ban Congress members from trading stocks. We want to make sure Congress members aren't voting because of what Lockheed Martin gave to them. We're going to, do campaign finance reform. And then ultimately, we're going to end the genocide in Gaza as well, because karma is a B, and we don't need that coming back here.
You can use the word bitch on here. You're on my.
My son's in the other room.
Oh, okay. I understand. I understand. Um, I think I have a little different perspective because I think it is top versus bottom. But I think the reason why it is top versus bottom is because we have been in love with executive authority, and we have over the last 25 years, we've really convinced ourselves that the president is the king. Right?
Mhm.
They are the authority. They are the executive power, and they have constitutional supremacy, which I have a constitution right here. I would have it handy. And really, if anyone out there, you should go ahead and subscribe to me and to Salaam on our Substacks. And if you want a free digital constitution, go to yourpocketconstitution.com and you get you a free download. But I think the thing that is happening, the reason why it feels like, because you said it, no matter who is in power, right? That's what you said, and I'm guessing you meant Democrats and Republicans, right?
Yep.
So we feel like we have a binary choice in this country when it comes to parties, because we kind of do. We are a two-party system, and I think the idea that we are a third party, I think that's not really our identity. I don't think it'll happen. I mean, we flirt with this idea for a long time in different periods of our history, but I think we're always going to be a two-party system, at least in the near future, if not for the next 100 or 200 years, if we survive this time period. But here's the thing, is that top versus bottom, my argument, the reason why you're saying that it feels like, and a lot of people feel this way, what you're saying is it doesn't matter who I vote for, right? I think the reason why is because there's so much power consolidated through the executive branch. And I think there is an awakening of limited federal power. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect on the left. That's why Democrats are kind of doing this a little bit, because one set of us, which I consider myself on the left, because I'm a liberal, and I mean that by capital L liberal in a classical sense. I think, and maybe it's just my classical liberalism, that in the last 8 months, I've watched what Trump has done with the government, what he's done with the executive orders. And I mean, we could go down the list. Tariffs is at the top of my list. The National Guard and ICE is right there. Like, if it's not even, it is right there with it, with the kind of tyranny. Grabbing away war powers, another set of tyranny. But and we could go on and on and on, all the way down to tearing down part of the White House. But I think Trump is a big problem. But the problem we have is that we are Article 2 America now. We are not Article 1 America. And we need to get back to Article 1 being the supreme article of the Constitution because that's where our voices get heard. We elect a president every 4 years, and we're supposed to believe that the president, who in the Constitution, their powers are to write the checks that when we get our representation to appropriate those funds, they write the checks and they administer those checks. And when we, through Congress, tell him you can go to war, he's the commander in chief. Those are basically the powers that are given to the president of the United States. And it's not reality right now. And I think the reason why it's not reality is because we have lived in a different reality. We have convinced ourselves that a strong executive, a strong man is what we want. And I don't mean we like we the right or we the left. I mean we the American people. And I can go back to a moment that really spells this out. And it's 9/11. And it's not those events that happened, but it was our reaction because we were scared. We were scared for our safety. We were scared for our national security. There was all sorts of reasons for America to kind of have trauma from that event. And I think that trauma produced us to say, hey, we trust the president. He's the president of the United States, and we'll give him all the authority to do the things to keep us safe. And we lost a ton of liberty. And it wasn't just Bush who used this. Obama used this sort of power, maybe in a different way. Trump abused this power, obviously. Biden continued to keep this power going. And now we have Trump abusing it even at a higher level. So, what do we have next? Do we go to a Democrat? Because I've heard people out there, and I think Joe Walsh was one of the ones who was saying this, is if they build a ballroom, right? And I use the ballroom because it's kind of a touch point right now on the right and the left. If they build this ballroom and they put Trump's name on it, if the next president of the United States, the next Democrat runs to tear the ballroom down and build a new ballroom without his name on it, I'm like, you're so tone deaf. You're so tone deaf. The one reason why America, because us on the left, especially us who are engaged in politics online, we have a little different view of the White House getting torn down, right? Most Americans, their view of it is, why the hell would you tear that down and spend money to build that when I can't afford bread, milk, and beef? Okay. And what a Democrat is saying and what liberals are saying that are saying this out there. And I would love to have a conversation. I would have a conversation with Joe about this. I'm not attacking him um, off when he's not here. I would gladly have this debate with him. But I think it's tone deaf in that the majority of America doesn't want to hear that a Democrat wants to do the exact same thing that Trump did just to get at Trump when Trump's doing it to get at us. Like this kind of executive authority type pendulum swing is going to kill our democracy. So we can either choose our voice through the Constitution in Article 1, which I believe that's kind of what you're saying by running for Congress, right? Like that's the idea. Or what we can do is keep doing Article 2 America, where we do law by decree and country by decree, where we fight over culture and we never coalesce around economics. That's my look at it. And the reason why I believe it seems top versus bottom, which it is because when you consolidate all that executive authority in one spot, well, guess what? All the rich people can go kiss that person's booty and get them to do what they want. And all the executive authority is drawn through that one person. It's a lot harder for those rich corporate interests to go to members of Congress who do actually represent their constituency and tell them to kiss the ring when the ring is actually back in their district. And I'll give you a chance because I want to describe how the left is kind of butting heads over this. Because there's two races right now that I think stand out for a lot of different reasons, and I don't necessarily want to debate those races or the merits behind those candidates, but I want to use it as a description of what I see the left banging heads. You have Mamdani in New York, right? And he's running for an executive position, not a legislative position. And he's saying, I'm going to do this, 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 and this with my executive power. And that is one view of what the left wants to do. Basically, the means to the end, right? Now you have Graham Plattner, who is running for U.S. Senate, which is a body that is the opposite chamber you want to run for, right? So he's running for U.S. Senate. Now he's taking a lot of heat for a lot of other things, but the things that he is saying is representing Maine, right? And even those things that a lot of people see as maybe culture issues or things that disqualify him, it doesn't, it seems like there's a big disconnect because Maine isn't seeing it that way, because Maine sees that he's going to represent them. And I think that's the thing we're really missing is we want representation. But the question is, does that representation come through a legislative body or does it come through an executive? And I think that's the thing that that we're working out in this realignment, and we're working out. That's why the parties are butting heads, because the right wing, it's not just the left wing, the right is doing this as well. The right's freaked out, like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene are like, whoa, this really is way too much executive power, and we want to get our voice back to the people. So how do you do? And that's what I think the top versus bottom. Are you buying into what I'm selling, or do you disagree with me? And I want you to be honest. Disagree with me, or tell me what you think.
I mean, there's no one right answer. It's a little bit of everything, right?
Hmm.
I condense it to, billionaires versus everybody else because that message is resonating with folks and it really talks to the affordability crisis. But you're also right, and I agree as well that when you're going through like U.S. government in class, you think the president has a lot of power, but then when you read the Constitution, you're like, wait,
Right.
actually can't do that much.
No. Uh-uh.
They're really
Not without Congress. They can
right.
with Congress, but not without them.
Not without so it's like, wow, the president is just like a figurehead, right? That's really the
A servant of the people is how
exactly
it, because I would see the three branches, Congress or the legislature is the representation, the president or the executive is the servant of the people, and the judiciary is the referee to make sure those two don't get out of
right.
control, right? Like that's the idea. And we've kind of we've lost Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. We've lost that knowledge.
I mean, like you said, the power of the tariff is one of Congress's amazing powers, and they've given that to Trump. The Supreme Court has given up some of their powers and said, like with circuit courts can't affect the entire country. So the executive orders that have been challenged only have so much impact now. So it's just like a really weird time. And I didn't take AP US government for politics to be this exciting. We really need to get politics to being boring again, but also serving people at the same time. So that's where we are, and it's not where we should be. That's why we're running for Congress. And there's about 30 districts across the country that are targeted for flipping from red to blue. So wherever you all are, like if there's a candidate in your district that's running on values that'll help you as a working class American, vote for them, support them. They're probably not taking corporate money or APAC money like I am. I mean, like I am also not doing. So they need that hole filled because that's tens of thousands of dollars out of their campaign budgets. But it's for integral purposes. It's a good foundation that we're building, that we're only going to be people powered because we also answer to the people. You don't want me voting because APAC gave me money. You don't want me voting because it's going to help my net worth. And I don't want to be voting that way either. And I'm not going to be voting that way. So donate $5, $10 a month to get people through the primaries. And that's going to really go a long way.
So let's go back to a little bit of this working class, because I think that's the other thing that Americans are kind of fed up with. I think that's the reason why they sought out candidates like Bernie Sanders, candidates like Trump that were anti-establishment. I consider myself non-establishment. I really I'm a commentator, so I try to look through the lens of observation, and I really do evaluate it through political science. I'm a two-time college dropout, but I did study political science while I was there. But I'll say that's really my commentary. But I don't give my commentary a lot of data or statistics, and the reason why is because I don't think America really buys into some of that. And maybe it's a problem, maybe it isn't, but it's the reality. And I get the sense that a lot of liberals on the left want to adhere to strictly the facts. And I think I'm not saying liberals should lie or the left should lie, but I don't think that facts win elections. I think feelings. And I think that's what you're saying about the working class. We've lost this disconnect. I think it's the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene is actually changing her position. It's not because she has changed her mind about Trump or she has changed her mind about her values, maybe. I think what it is her constituents are calling in and they're
Mhm.
like, hey, we're mad. We're very upset about what's going on and we're upset about the direction. And if you don't do something about X, Y, and Z, whatever those things may be, I mean, she's talking now against tariffs. Obviously, the Epstein files has her upset. The same thing with some of the APAC money that you're talking about. The what is going on with the quote unquote non ceasefire in Gaza. I mean, there's a lot of these different things that are happening that make it to where this coalition starts to come together. Where you and Marjorie Taylor Greene have a lot of the same top line issues, and you're right there together, which is it's a weird spot to be, right? But I think what is shining through with that is that working class people are starting to understand we're never going to agree on culture. We're not. I guarantee you that you and Marjorie Taylor Greene could sit down and there would be 95, 96, maybe more than that disagreement on culture. But I guarantee if you talk about the issues that you were talking about earlier, you guys would agree 95% of the time. And my pitch is, and I'm not trying to sell people on liking Marjorie Taylor Greene because that's not what I'm saying. The people in her district have to like her. The people, if the people in your district elect you, they have to feel like you're representing their interest,
Mhm.
right? And if we don't feel that way, then we should fire people. Because I get that, but I get that a lot. We should have term limits. We do. You get 2 years to prove that you're good enough. And if you're not, we get to fire you. Because I think if Americans, working class Americans especially, start to focus on who their representative is in the House of Representatives, and then secondarily the Senate, but mainly the House of Representatives, because that's where your money gets appropriated. If we focused more on that, on how they vote, what they say, what issues are important to them, and how they represent us, than who the hell the president is, I think the Article 2 power will diminish very quickly. And the reason why is because we will be very tuned in. And I think people are getting there because these town halls are getting larger, they're getting louder, and it all seems to be focused around the same thing: economics, not culture. And is that what you're seeing when you're going out there? And I mean, are you talking to to Republicans? Tell me about that and how that is being received. Are you seeing that same thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene is kind of running into in her district?
Yeah, my neighbor is a lifelong Republican, and we've had
Did he did vote for Trump 3 times or no? Or do you know?
oh, actually, I haven't asked him about his Trump vote, but, I will next time,
Yeah. Mhm.
and we've had a lot of conversations, and one of the areas that we agree on is that medical debt shouldn't exist. And I was really surprised when he agreed to that because I just thought he wouldn't, but he's like, "Yeah, medical debt doesn't make sense." So we've been able to walk him towards, let's support a healthcare for all approach. And his wife ends up donating to our campaign. So this is what we're talking about. It's the kitchen table issues. It's the economics of it all
That's it. Right.
that
Mhm.
people are concerned about. So that's what we're talking about. We may not agree on culture. We may not agree on abortion. We may not agree on this or that. But are you having an abortion? Are you using a different bathroom? Does it matter? No. What matters is you can't afford your groceries. You can't afford your energy costs. You can't afford your healthcare. And this is what Congress has the power to do.
Right.
You've got the Constitution in your hand. One of my favorite clauses is the General Welfare Clause. Congress's job is to provide for the general welfare of the people. And that can be done so easily through healthcare for all, through a guaranteed income, and that's it, you're done. Everybody else can just do what they want, having their basic needs met. You want to make more money, go get a job, and you won't need the guaranteed income. If you want employers based healthcare, then fine, go ahead. But Congress just provides that bare minimum basic needs, and everybody else gets to move forward however else they want to. And that's what we should be focused on, not
Now,
focused. And this is I get this from Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson famously said, something to the effect of, "If it doesn't pick my pocket or break my leg, why should I care?"
right. Well, and I think if we get more back to the Democratic Republican style views or Jeffersonian views, I think we'll actually be able to compromise some of these positions. I don't know if I don't believe that the American people will vote for a guaranteed income. My belief is, and this is where we would differ, right? But it's okay that we differ. It's okay that we have discourse around this.
Mm.
And the reason why is my rebuttal to that would be that I think Americans want a couple different things. First off, they want the government off their backs. They do not want to be told what to think, who to be, or how to be it, right? They do not want the government telling them what they're going to do. Now, the second thing is they want to work hard. I do not believe that the American people as a whole, especially the working class, working people, and that spectrum is wide. I think everyone thinks that the working class are poor and powerless, and that is so far from the truth. I know millionaires that are working people, and I know people who don't have two nickels to their name that are working people, and
Mm.
they consider themselves in that working class. Now, I think that they want to work hard, but the most important thing is they want the opportunity to earn some dignity. And I think that is why the SNAP thing, coming back here around full circle, sterilizing it and not calling it the food bill, or not that disconnect from farm to table, and why it's so important to us as communities. Not. I mean, it is national security and food security and economic security, but this is what drives your local communities, and it's what provides the ability to have a grocery store there. And some places don't even have a grocery store; they have a convenience store where things are 2 and 3 times higher. Um, but we have to understand that we are in this together. And the thing that is working against us right now is that executive power and the billionaire interest, like you were saying earlier, to do that to us. And I think that if we as working class people want to work hard and we want to earn some dignity, the way to do it is to get representation that represents us in Congress in that form and fashion. And so I don't necessarily think that America is going to buy a universal income. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they will. I don't know.
Let
But
me let me
yeah,
tell you
go
a
ahead.
little something real quick. So I don't favor a universal income.
Yeah.
I favor a guaranteed income, which is means tested. And the path to this is consolidating a lot of the existing welfare programs. So, you have SNAP, you have TANF, you have WIC, you have Section 8, you got Medicaid, you've got a bunch of others, LIHEAP. And so,
Hmm.
and they all have different eligibility standards. But when you're in poverty and you need all of them. But maybe you're making $5 too much for LIHEAP or $10 too much for Section 8, right? And then all of a sudden you can't get all the help that you need. So let's consolidate and let's have a standard eligibility and help the American people that way.
So I would agree with you on that. My problem is that in the America that we live in, as Article 2 America, I feel like right now it would be a catastrophe if we had a president of the United States who wasn't just cutting off SNAP, but cutting off an entire one safety net system. And I see you smiling, but that's the thing that I have learned under Trump, because I got to tell you, I would have agreed with you before last November.
Mhm.
And I would have definitely agreed with you probably up until about January 19th.
Right.
But the Trump presidency 2.0 has changed my mind. I have fundamentally changed my mind. And I think a lot of Americans are moving in that space where we do not want one person to tell us what the hell is going to happen. We do not want a king. And I think all the people out there carrying the no king signs believe that that might be anti-Trump, but I think what is happening is you're starting to think about what would happen if it wasn't Trump, if it was someone else. And it doesn't mean that it has to be a Republican or it has to be a Democrat. And I think so many people are disappointed in the parties right now that they wouldn't want either one of them telling them what to do, or whether they can have SNAP, or whether they can have a one way safety net where the safety net isn't complex, to where because some people are going to receive part of their safety net tomorrow, and some of them are going to not receive another part of their safety net. And I think we have to be careful about how much we consolidate power, because when we consolidate power, whether it be in New York City or in Washington, D.C., when we consolidate too much power, we think government can do good. But with the same power that government does good, government can do bad. And I think that's what we're going to see tomorrow. And I think we need to stay away from that. And we really need to rethink and reshape how our local control. And I know it sounds states' righty, but it kind of is. Like in this time, it would be nice to have a few more states' rights where Trump couldn't call in the National Guard because he doesn't like a certain city. Like it would be kind of nice to have more local control. So I think if we think more of this stuff through, and we elect people who have good ideas. Because I think if your constituents buy into that idea and they like that idea and they want to be represented in that way, they should be. The same way as in Maine, they should vote for who they want. New York City, Atlanta, LA. That this is how we should be represented, how we want to be represented. So I'll let you finish there, and then give us a good pitch here at the end because I know we're coming to a close.
Yeah, I'll say that, the reason why we're not having SNAP benefits go out isn't just because the contingency fund isn't being used, but also because there's a shutdown. And I
Yeah.
recently just learned this week that France has this provision that if there's no agreement on the budget, then the previous budget continues. So I'm like, well, we should have that in America, where the government shouldn't grind to a halt in 21st century America while we're all still paying federal taxes and have nothing going on federally. So let's have something legislatively happen there. And I think we could get a bipartisan commitment to just have the budget run on cruise control. And you can't get new things in place until you approve them in that new budget. I think that would go a lot further. And then that would make sure we have more of an Article 1 type of government where Congress still has the power of the purse. And the system, the checks and balances is what we pride ourselves on. And that has been diminished. So, as Kanye West, pre Crazy Times, said, no one man should have all that power. And this is exactly why, right? So, what we're seeing is an extreme version of things that shouldn't happen. So, when the concern comes up that one person could cut a one stop shop for a welfare or safety net, well, hopefully we never have to get there. And so, if we're there, then we have a lot more problems. So that's kind of like the thinking out there, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the thinking that America is doing. And I'm not trying to be combative. I just
No, no,
I
I'm
definitely
yeah.
no. I think the discourse is good because I think when we talk through these ideas and we do it in a way that isn't directed towards vitriol or our culture or our differences, it's our likenesses. I think that's the thing where, and again, it's my pitch to close this disconnect from on our food bill, our farm bill, and our food security from farm to those customers that are going to bring that food to their table and feed their families. And when we start to discover all those things in between and where it starts and where it ends and how it benefits all of us, then I think we can start to put together why we should be electing our representation and the way we should be electing them. And I want to let you give you a chance for your pitch for your campaign there. But I want to tell everyone that's on here that has been watching, you can get a free digital copy of the Constitution at yourpocketconstitution.com. You'll get a chance to get an actual one, but carry it around on your cell phone. When someone asks about Article 1 or Article 2, get to know it. Actually, the Constitution is really easy to read and really easy to understand. That's kind of why they wrote it the way they wrote it. I mean, it's kind of it's not modern, but it is still easy to understand. And if you have that copy with you, it's so much easier when people are having a discussion like this. You can get it out and refer to the preamble, Article 1, 2, or 3, or any of the Bill of Rights. And I think that's important. So, and I appreciate your conversation today, and I hope you can come back
Uh,
as this plays out so that we can talk more about SNAP benefits and more about the food bill, or as referred to the farm bill, and some of these disconnects as we watch what happens. Because I'm not suggesting that this political realignment is the answer. I'm just suggesting at a 50,000-foot level that that's what I see happening. And I think the country is moving in that direction. And I hope we can get the best representation that everyone wants to have representation that they feel like it values them in that body. So tell us why you're going to value your constituents in your race.
the question I've been getting from people across the country about our race is, well, Salam, I don't live in your district, or I don't even live in the state of Virginia. why should I support you or why should I volunteer? And when you look at the big, beautiful bill, it only passed by a handful of votes. So it's really critical that when it comes to these federal seats, that we all help as best we can in as many races as possible because everything really is on the line. So if you're vibing with a public interest lawyer who's fought and won for working families, come join us. Go to salamforva.com, SALAAM as in Mike, FORVA.com, and sign up to volunteer. We're going to have a lot of volunteer, both in district and out of district opportunities next year as the primary race heats up. And there's also a big old donate button. And I wouldn't be a candidate if I didn't ask you, please pitch in. It is the end of the month. We would love a donation. And what we're asking for is if you could do a small dollar donation that's monthly, it'll take us into the June primary very strong because we'll know we'll have like a recurring source of funds coming in to help us hire staff, get in front of the rec voters, put out mailers, and all that jazz. And we're having a really great time on social media, Instagram, Threads. So if you go to our website at the bottom, there's a volunteer form. There's also all of our social media channels. So follow along and learn a little bit about our district and hot button issues too.
And stay on his tail if you disagree with him, because this guy isn't afraid to disagree with you. I can tell. And go ahead and follow us here and subscribe here on Substack. You can follow along there. And again, go to Your Pocket Constitution if you want to pick up a free digital copy of that Constitution. Buddy, I'm glad you came today. I'm glad we could talk out these disconnects on this food program, and I hope that there is a resolution to this sooner rather than later, so that not only the families that are receiving these benefits, but all the people in between, whether it's the grocery store workers, the truckers, the butchers, the feedlot workers, or the family farmers. I hope everyone can get through this, and we can get these appropriated funds rolling again to make sure not just our national and food security is there, but our economic security is there. Salaam, thanks very much. And let's do it again soon. All right.
Can't wait, buddy.
Hey,
Thanks
thank
very
you.
much.
We'll talk to you guys.